I said cooey. That's it, you can talk to me. I'm not a video anymore. That's right. Oh, hello, how nice to see you. Now, after 3, shout out your names and bank account details. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Oh, right, we've got Helen, Greg, lots of Gregs in Sheffield. Have you noticed that? Oh, and somebody who's got a bank account with Coots, must be from animation. Nice to see you. Well, my name is Widow Twanky. Oh, yes, it is. Oh, it's too early for all that rubbish. But welcome to our little sesh, all about Panto. Panto will save the world. Oh, yes, it will. Oh, yes, it will. Thank you. Oh, you're on our side. Isn't that nice to hear? Oh, isn't that special? Well, it's lovely to see you all. And down here, we've got the lovely Tony. I've decided you're going to be my boyfriend for the show today. Nice to see you, Tony, down there in the front row. Now, has everybody seen a Panto? You have to, oh, that's good. Saves a lot of time. Well, just to sum up, a panto is a musical comedy. Lots of songs and silly sketches and routines, old-fashioned ones, new bits of business that come and go. It evolves over time, and it all hinges on a very thin plot from a load of old fairy tales, a bit like a political manifesto. That's right. But pantomime does make the world of difference to children on their very first introduction to the theatre. And the theatres themselves are saved from bankruptcy, boys and girls. Because Panto brings in the crowds, like today. If you could all move about a bit and make it look busy, honestly. It would have been cheaper to have done it in my lounge. Oh, but it's so nice to have you all here. And are you going to be nice and loud for me, boys and girls? Oh, that is good. Now, that's Panto, and it's so nice to see so many people here from television and every other kind of children's medium. Well, actually, I'm a medium. Well, that's what it says in my knickers, Tony. But I've got a little secret to share with you today. Would you like to hear a little secret? A little secret, because today I am wearing my CMC bra. It's got lots of support. It holds masses, and it gives out after 3 days. Ooh. Oh, but not right now, because we're celebrating pantomime. We are celebrating here today. Do you know, for another £5 you could have had Chris Biggins? It's true. Oh, okay. But we are celebrating pantomime. Now, pantomime has a rich history rooted in commedia dell'arte. This is my best side. A bit of a shock face on, but that's my best side. Thank you very much. It's rooted in commedia dell'arte, Punch and Judy, and it's like a big comedy hoover, sucking up loads of different things over the years: variety, music hall, musical theatre, and bits and pieces from television. It just keeps going and keeps going, and things come and go, as I said earlier, little traditions and parts of Panto, like romance, for example. Romance used to be a big thing, Tony. It used to be a very big thing to do. Unfortunately, my late husband, he perished after falling into a huge vat of coffee. It was a terrible way to go, but at least it was instant. I tried to help him, but I was too latte. Somebody laughed at me. Someone else said, "Don't mock her. She'll ruin that frock and it'll cost her." Oh, enough. But anyway, romance did go away. It was very important in the early days of pantomime, boys and girls. And it sort of went away because, we sort of rushed through it because that was the bit where all the kids opened up their crisp packets and went to the loo. But not anymore. Children love it. And it's all thanks to you, because it's back on our screens. And it's in the storytelling of, we call it the Pixar Disney factor, don't we, Tony? And also now on CBeebies too, telling those rich romantic tales. So thank you very much. Now, over the years, the stars of Panto have come from all sorts of places. In the 50s and 60s, the pop stars joined us. Frank Ifield, Cliff Richard, Dusty Springfield did a Panto. It's true. Ooh, a Dusty fan over there. And then in the 70s, the sitcom stars. In the 80s, it was the Australian soap operas. In the 90s, gladiators. who are back. Yes, lots of Gladiators fans here today. And at one point, I mean, every single Panto seemed to have a gladiator. I don't think there were that many on the television. But anyway, it's changed over the years. But ever since Watch with Mother, we've had stars from children's entertainment. You might have seen in the posters up there, we had Basil Brush. Sooty's still doing it. It's true. John Barrowman, the Crankies, they've all done Panto. And it's a way of connecting with the audience, paying the tax bill, and having a lot of fun at Christmas time. Well, I've got to do it every year, and somebody else who's got to do it every year, and I'm talking about pantomime, is our first speaker. Boys and girls, will you please welcome the wonderful Kat Sandian. Woo!
Thank you. Thank you so much, Widow Twanky. Hi, everyone. I don't know how I can follow that, Chris. Widow Twanky. So, yeah, basically, I'm here just to tell you a little bit about my experience of Panto. And believe it or not, I didn't grow up watching Panto. My parents are both from Mauritius. It wasn't sort of a Christmas tradition, so in our household. So I actually didn't know much about Panto until I was in one. So the first TV job I did was called High Five, and that was for Cartoonito and CITV. And at the time, there were 5 of us, and the other cast members were so excited to be kids presenters. And I was like, brilliant, this is amazing. But they were like, but do you know what this means? And I was like, what does it mean? And they were like, we can do Panto. And I was like, wow, okay, what is this? Tell me all about it. So they gave me some contacts, and I did my first one, which was in Weston-super-Mare, and I had the lovely John Challis, the late, great John Challis. He was Boise in Only Fools and Horses. I had a great time. It was amazing experience, and that was my first time really with a live band as well, which I absolutely loved, being able to sing with a band. Absolutely loved it. But, and it's horrible to say, but the most shocking thing for me doing a Panto, and it's hard because it is in the British, in the traditions and stuff, but it was the culture shock, basically. It's full of lazy racism, unfortunately, and for me, that was my first time doing a Panto, so I was like, oh my gosh, like, where has this come from? What do I do? Do I just have to crack on? But I kind of had to. I had to just pull my socks up and get on with it. But looking at back now, I'm like, this wouldn't happen in this day and age. Some of the things that I saw in the shows, it just wouldn't happen, and that's a really good thing. That's a really positive thing, because 2 decades later, we won't see some of the jokes, and I won't even dare go into some of the things that I saw. But I did have an amazing experience, an amazing time, and it has helped for now, like with the experience I have, that I can speak up and talk about things and what you're comfortable with doing, etc. And it has changed, hasn't it? It's very different now. But that sort of stuff isn't even like necessary, and you can see that. Sorry, my mouth's getting so dry. You can see that with the CBeebies Pantos, because we don't have any of that in our shows, like any of the sort of lazy racism. It's just unnecessary. And what they want to see is they want to be entertained by you. They want to have fun. They want to join in, the audience participation. This being like, you know, the kids' first trip to the theatre. You saying, right, you boo the baddie. They love it. They're like, boo. It's normally kids are like, shh, be quiet, you're in the theatre, be quiet. Like, you can't really get involved, but this is like, you have to boo the baddies, hiss them, and then when it's the goodies, and then you've always got a really good moral to the story, and then you can all cheer at the end, and it's all happy, and it's just amazing. Like, I love Panto, and I love all my experiences, and obviously, back in the day, I was only castable for Princess Jasmine, because people of colour at that time, that is just what it was. And I didn't think anything of it. I was just happy to get a role. But looking at the CBeebies Pantos, and what I'm so grateful for is that I wasn't typecast because of the colour of my skin or where I'm from. It was basically for my skill set, the fact that I could perform. And I got to play amazing roles like Alice in Alice in Wonderland and Mrs. Christmas, you know? Like, it's just been incredible. So I'm very grateful for the TV opportunity of mixing the theatre and TV, putting it together, and these kids get to watch it over and over again and enjoy such beautiful music from Banks and Wag. The production, it's such a tight ship, like I can't even tell you how amazing this is. It's 2 weeks we have it. It's 2 weeks, isn't it? And in a normal panto, you probably get 6 weeks to do it. So 2 weeks rehearsal, then a 4-week run. By the end of the show, like the 66th show, you probably know what you're doing. But with the CBeebies pantos, it's like you do it, you're in, and then you get a shot, probably 4 shots at it. I'm not sure how many times you record it, maybe twice. And that's it, 4 times. Brilliant, that's good to know. And then you get to enjoy it, and then you get the edit. Like, you don't get the edit when you're normal panto, because, well, one example is I'm doing an opening scene, and I'm reading the book. Was I the narrator? I think I was a fairy. And I had all the lovely ladies around me, the little girls and princesses in their dresses. Little did I know, my stall was actually on one of their dresses. So when they got up and ran away, I just flew and hit the deck. Honestly, I was on the floor to, like, I don't know, 800 people. And I was like, oh, and you just have to jump up and keep going. So the difference is, with theatre, obviously, that's it. They'll remember that, that's what they see. But the lucky thing about TV is you get to do it again. So things like that. Like, so it is amazing. And I'm so privileged and proud to have had the years I've had of doing the shows and being able to sing the amazing songs and be working with such incredible people and seeing great friends as well, and every year. So thank you. I've got to stop now. But thanks, guys. Thank you.
Thank you. The wonderful Cat, boys and girls, Cat Sandian. It's hard to think of a panto without a cat. Puss in Boots, Dick Whittington. But Cat Sandian is truly marvellous. If you see her on a poster, go and see it, because you can do both. You can do TV and the stage. Not everybody can, and you're absolutely marvellous. Now, our next speaker is Robert Marsden, who is an academic on the subject of pantomime, but also a theatre director and a trustee of the UK Pantomime Association.
Thank you, Widow Twanky. Thank you. And Widow Twanky is also a trustee, and we work very closely together. I've got about 10 minutes to talk about some of the changes in pantomime, and I think one thing I want to say is that pantomime doesn't sit outside of the ecosystem of theatre. It's very much part of it. So that there's been a lot of societal shifts, and we've obviously had something happen in 2020, some pandemic or something. But there's been a lot of societal shifts and a global pandemic, and that's accelerated a real amount of change. So I've just got a few examples of how that's happening. Obviously, with Me Too, we're much more concentrating now on making sure that we've got male and female identifying balance and gender balance within our casting and our creative teams. With Black Lives Matter movement, we're thinking about diversity of casting, moving away from colour-blind casting to colour-conscious casting, and really making sure that, as you were saying, Kat, earlier, that it's not just in some of those traditional roles, and making sure it's much more open. We've had We Shall Not Be Removed, which was set up by the UK Disability Arts Alliance in 2020, raising the profile of creative deaf and disabled and neurodivergent artists. So again, we're looking about that diversity of casting. And there's some amazing resources out there. Tonic Theatre, fantastic amount of resources to support with inclusive casting. And that's very much what Pantomime has been doing. And obviously during COVID, we had the Reset Better Charter. So we're not working morning, noon and night till 2 a.m. in the morning doing lighting plots, as it were, because who does that privilege? It certainly doesn't privilege the carers in those creative teams as well. So there's been a lot of change both in society and with the global pandemic that's made us rethink. And there's been some significant shifts forward. The UK Pantomime Awards that we hosted a few weeks ago, Widow Twanky, has had new categories such as Inclusive Practices Awards, and it's really about championing that best practice. Some changes, a lot of risque, you might think there's some risque content in pantomime. Well, the adult pantomimes now kind of sit outside, and they have their very own style, often in Easter and all year round. But pantomime is a family-orientated tradition. Some people think it's just for children. It's not, it's a family-orientated. So from that, as a director, I'm thinking about that kind of 3 to 103 kind of idea, that there's something in that pantomime for absolutely everybody in that audience. And we still do the double entendre jokes. I think, Chris, you slipped in a few there. Did And there's been a lot of change with comedy as well. Steve Marmion, who's a director at the Lyric Hammersmith, talks about punching up with the comedy, that we punch up, so to the perpetrators, not to the victims. Like, for example, a big change in pantomime that I've seen is that those local references have slightly shifted. So we're celebrating that. I work in Halifax every year and direct their pantomime. We celebrate Halifax, and we might take the mick out of a rival town, for example, or city. So punching up with the comedy. Representation of women has been a major change in the scripting and in the writing process over recent years. So a colleague that I work with quite a bit, Eric Potts, so for example, when we looked at Jack and the Beanstalk, it's Jack and Jill who go on the quest to defeat the giant and chop down the beanstalk. It's very much around shifting that balance. And Tanuka Craig, who was the director of Jude Christian's Cinderella, the Lyric Hammersmith in 2019, I'm going to read this out. She didn't want, and the writer and the director, they didn't want a passive Cinderella. So I'm going to read this out. Quote, "We have a responsibility to deliver this princessy goodness without it being something that feels unhelpful to the development of girls in the audience." We talked about that a lot, so in rehearsals and in development. Because on the one hand, I don't want to contribute to a society in which little girls feel like their goal in life is to get married and live in a princessy bubble. But on the other hand, princesses are pretty and dresses are beautiful, and that's allowed. And she goes on to say at the heart of their show is, quote, "a feisty scientist Cinderella who can also rock a beautiful ball gown." And I love that balance, that balance. Sleeping Beauty, there's often talk about the consensual kisses. So it's about how do you set that up as a consensual relationship. So it's not love's first kiss, it's love's true kiss. Lots of real detailed conversations happen in the writing stage. So it's not that we can't tell these stories, these fairy tales and folk tales of old. It's how we do so. And it should reflect societal movements. So in the 1990s, Susan McKenna, who's a writer and director of Panto and did a lot for Hackney Empire, she says that we should stop killing the baddie. We should stop killing the baddie. So for her, it was always about redemption or justice. Restorative justice would be modelled in a really soft way. Kat talked about morals in pantomime. So what you're trying to do there is that you might never kill the giant. There is otherness in the world. We are scared of the other. So the question for the writer and the director and the performer is much more about how do we deal with the other? How do we cope and deal and respond to otherness? So you're modelling softly. We spoke about this before, and you're modelling softly and implicitly those morals. So, and in particular, theatre producers and directors and writers have really been responding to inclusivity and diversity, and particularly in terms of the Aladdin story as well. And we've had quite a few posters from Aladdin there. And that accelerated a couple of years ago in a production that, I'm just going to quote this is a lyric, quote, "Come on down to the Oriental town." That was in the lyrics of the opening number in an all-white cast Aladdin. It's problematic, it's yellow-facing, there's racism within that. So, for example, Paul Hendy script won the best script at the UK Pantomime Awards this year for his reworking of Aladdin at the Marlow Theatre in Canterbury. Why? He brought in a sensitivity reader to look at the Aladdin story. So it's not that you can't tell stories that are outside of your own lived experience and culture, but it's about, if I am telling that story, how do I want to make sure that I'm responsible towards that story, the origins of that story, and we're moving towards cultural appreciation, not cultural appropriation. So I thought we thought as the panel there that was a really strong message. The Aladdin and the Princess was still there, but often other names were changed. So it wasn't Abanazar in quite frankly has been in the past racist makeup, wanting to take over the world, but very much so, quote, he wanted to be, quote, the supreme ruler of the universe, in particular, the CT1 district of Canterbury. i.e., it was set not in the to rule China, but it was very much set in Canterbury with gone are the racist names of PC Ping and Pong in pantomime. That was the racist tropes, but that became PC World and became much more about the comedy. Dick Whittington's another example as well in terms of, it always goes somewhere else. It used to be that you used to have a white actor playing the Sultan of Morocco when Dick Whittington and the crew end up on the shores of Morocco. So you've got to be dealing with not only diversity of casting now, but also you just have to go somewhere else in that story. I've seen productions that take you to Cloudland. I've seen one rock up on the shores of Costa del Sol in Spain. You just have to go somewhere else that isn't going to tip into cultural appropriation. And more venues now have gone to a repertory theatre model where actually, when I first started doing pantomime in Halifax, we did have star names, recognisable names from soap operas and so on and so forth. But the comic, who wasn't a name at the time, started to become the name, that returning comic. And ticket sales started to shift, interestingly, as a result of that. And that's happening elsewhere. So Ian Lachlan and Andy Hockley in Coventry, Jonathan Wilkes in Stoke, you've got a lot of, they become the name of that area. And dames remain. 100% of Aladdins and Jacks have had a dame in the past. But what's shifting is about the principal boy, which often is now tended to be played by boys, breaking tradition with the girls playing the principal boy character. And about 7% of pantomimes now have a female principal boy. But there's other ways of thinking about making sure we've got that casting balance. Because if we're reflecting society through the work that we put on our stages, the casting and the story we need to all see ourselves somewhere in that story. We need to see elements of our own lives in that story, in this topsy-turvy, weird world of Panto. So Wicked Sisters are now often female in Cinderella, and you might still have the dame character within that. So Craig Revel Horwood played the Wicked Stepmother, for example, alongside female Wicked Sisters. King Rat can be Queen Rat. That isn't new. That was in the Edwardian times. So we need to think differently about how we cast and how we shake up our expectations of casting. So I want to kind of draw that to a close by talking about that we tell the story, we have to fulfill audiences' expectations. There's an expectation when you're doing a panto that there will be certain elements in it, and so you have to fulfill that, but then you can push the boundaries, shake up how we're making and telling these stories. It's certainly not going away. We're getting back to a post-pandemic level, 17% rise in ticket sales the other year. It's up to anywhere between 15 and 40% of revenue for a theatre every year. And there's so many reasons that sit behind that. And also, it's less likely now to be viewed as amateurish. You've had star names like Dawn French and Nigel Havers, Saria McKellen, David Suchet, Maureen Lipman on the bills, giving weight and credence to the tradition and art form of pantomime. And that's being reflected in the ticket sales as the audience agency research suggests. And aligned to that, which is the segue back to Widow Twankey, is around production values have increased. Audiences' expectations that you go and see almost like a West End style show with 47,000 moving lights and so on and so forth. There's a real expectation of high production values, which I'm going to hand back to Widow Twankey to talk about.
Rob Marsden, thank you very, very much. Thank you for sharing all that. You're amazing. Brilliant. But Rob is absolutely right, boys and girls. Yes, the content has evolved, but so has all the technology, and we're very lucky, aren't we? Thanks to programs like QLab, which you might use in your work in media, we use it as well. And it means that in the old days, you used to have somebody in the wings with a big sheet of metal making the thunder and a wind machine. Now we just press a button, thunder, and here it comes, wind. Makes kids laugh. We are allowed 3 in every show. I don't know what your rules are. I always have 3. But there we go. But technology has changed. I just want at this stage to point out a friend of mine, Scott, from Molly Limpet, who's in the front row, who designed this amazing frock. Molly Limpet is in Sheffield. It's huge. The warehouse is absolutely massive. Do check them out on the website, Molly Limpet. You'll find it if you search. Thank you very much, Scott. Yes, costume technology has changed. The magic and illusions, like Cinderella's frock, going from rags to riches. It's no longer a body double. It's done in real time. All these amazing things happen in costume, in lighting, as you say, and in sound. But the spectacle that you get, I'm always amazed at our show, at Lighthouse Pool, there's the plug, at Lighthouse Pool. I can't believe all the gadgetry and the way a few people make it all happen. But the big shows like the Palladium, the big city shows, use these incredible spectacles, a lot of them made by a company from Poole called Twins FX, and we'd like to show you their video, which shows off all their amazing illusions. Other illusions companies are available, but those are, honestly, no video effects whatsoever, ladies and gentlemen. Well, before we move on to talking about CBeebies today, let's go back 50 years and show you pantomime as it was on All-Star Record Breakers in 1974.
And the bits are so small, too. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 beds.
Snow White was so tired that within a few minutes she was fast asleep, and she didn't even hear the owners of the cottage coming home from work.
Hi-ho, 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 all 7 in a row. Hi-ho, 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 it's home from work we go. Hi-ho, 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 all 7 in a row. Hi-ho.
Well, there we had Valerie Singleton, the late, great Bernard Cribbins, and did you spot everybody else? John Craven? Yeah, we'll play a little game later, and you can tell me who they were. Well, the new generation of stars from the BBC Children's appear in the CBeebies pantomime, which we all look forward to every year. Let's take a look at last year's production, nearly 50 years on from that last clip, Robin Hood.
Queen!
From the quiver, lift aloft my mighty bow. Point the arrow to the target, pull it back, and let it go.
Oh, yes, we can.
Oh, no, we can't.
Oh, yes, we can. You riffraff!
Oh, Robin, can I give the fruit pies to the good, please? Can I?
Of course you can, Tiny. In fact, would all of you like to join our merry band too? Wonderful! Then join in, everyone! Here we go!
Robin Hood, the riches of the tree, he gives away for free. Robin Hood, the hero of the forest, hooray for Robin Hood.
And the driving force, please welcome our next speaker, executive producer from BBC Studios Kids and Family, Anna Perrone.
Thank you, Dame, Widow, Twanky. It's an honour to be with you. Beautiful. And it's really lovely to be here just to reflect on what we've done over, we've lost count really, haven't we? It's about 13, 14 years of the CBeebies Panto as it currently is. And, you know, just to take you back to give you a little bit of context on that, it was commissioned, we celebrated her last night by Kay Bembo, and a real celebration for introducing theatre to the youngest audience. You know, we've talked about commercial pantomimes being that way into the theatre for the youngest audience. And that's absolutely the ambition that Kay had for those. And it's a joy to be part of. There's many from the family that make it. And it's a family that do it together, from Kids and Family, now in BBC Studios, and with the channel as well, and how much it's been championed. You know, kind of just keeping us going and thinking about where we can get this content for it to be discovered in so many different ways. It's a joy to do, and it's a joy. One of the biggest joys for, I think, all of us that make it is the celebration of the connection. I think CMC is about connection this week, isn't it? Yeah, there we go, on brand. But it's such a, you know, that clip there showed so many moments of the audience connecting with what was happening on stage for them. You know, it's a proper sort of moment to have a face-to-face interaction with their heroes. Yes, Mr. Tumble, dressed as a giant bumblebee. It's amazing. You can get him on and off when you want him to get on and off with a wire. Brilliant innovation, that. But the joyous thing for me is the audience getting to see their friends. You know, I won't bang on about Mr. Tumble constantly, but, you know, we're out filming with him at the moment, and a child with no prompting the other day just went, "Mr. Tumble, you're my best friend." And but that's the case for every person in the CBeebies cast. They're somebody's best friend. And for those audience members to come and connect with them and see them in lots of different roles, in roles that they might be used to them doing on their regular TV content, but mixing things up a bit as well. You know, their best mates are suddenly a villain, and they don't quite know how to deal with that, but it's in a safe space to feel some of that, and that sense of injustice that they feel, but they can do that because they know them. It was lovely there seeing Maddie. You know, we know Maddie for her brilliant knowledge and her brilliant factual presenting, but to appear singing, dancing, being silly, being a hero, you know, that's about rewriting stories as well, isn't it? That we rewrite those stories in a way that inspires our audience in lovely, gentle ways without going, "Come on, girls, you can have heroes as well." You know, it's there and it's placed, and in a really beautiful way. That I saw posts that came in on, you know, Instagram and things like that of children dressing up as Maddie being Marion on World Book Day. And, you know, suddenly we'd created a new generation of hero for our audience, which is a joyous thing to do. Loads and loads of different ways of connecting, and I think it means that we can challenge ourselves to cast roles in a different way, to be as inclusive as possible. The meet and greets at the end, there's a lot of production management represented here from the Panto, and they can speak to the amount of hours they have spent outside the theatres, allowing those meet and greets to happen. And that's really something to be celebrated, that there are real life heroes and friends for the CBeebies audience to meet and be inspired by. And the other thing that is a real celebration for me is collaborating and bringing different worlds together to create something. At the heart of what we're doing is creating the best content for preschoolers, and more and more and more for their families that are there with them. But it's a really powerful thing to be part of, bringing different worlds together. Not always easy, because it needs honest conversations. You know, the amount of times I talk to probably this guy over here when he's not dressed like that, spoiler. You know, it's what's appropriate in the theatre as to what then translates to back at home when a child might be watching on their own. You know, very soon the theatre teams learn the term imitative behaviour. I'm looking at Vanessa Amberley. But, you know, just that sort of challenge of thinking about what is appropriate to show to the audience in the theatre, who might be accompanied by parents and carers, but then how does that content then go and live on, you know, in a world of endless repeat viewings of it, watching it without a parent. And what I love is that over the years, we have found ways to do it. I think a few years ago, we probably wouldn't have gone anywhere near having an archery scene. But we found a way to do it. Let's not keep name-checking them too much, but Banks and Wag of kind of writing original songs. That's something we really celebrate on the CBeebies Panto, that we've got, probably about at least 15 minutes of original song and content that really helps tell our story, and that story became a physical song with actions that everybody can join in, that it's celebrating it and making it appropriate. I think it's often those imitative behaviour issues open up creative opportunities. There's loads of how those worlds have come together. I think what's really exciting about the CBeebies Panto is that every year we're creating a brand new piece of content. We're not in a world where we can go and get the set out of storage and do a bit of a paint on it, or pick up a book that has been worked on for many months. We're creating that fresh. And because that makes us think about the context this content sits in as well. We are thinking about how many repeat viewings is that content going to get. They're going to watch A Christmas Carol still next door to Robin Hood and whatever is still to be, maybe it's being announced today of what's coming this year. But that content sits, so we need to keep refreshing it. And our sets really help us do that. Our bespoke costumes for every show we do helps us to create larger-than-life characters that really sit in the audience's memory. We want them to be able to go, I want to watch that one with the giant bumblebee, or that one with Father Christmas. If we said that one with the person in the funny dress for 12 pantos, they're all going to merge into the next one. And that's, we need to think about our content being discovered in so many different places. So the opportunity to create a brand new piece of content every year is an absolute joy. A challenge, because we do it in a very short amount of time, but we do it. And, we've talked already, people have talked about the increase of expectations and production values going up, and that we want to keep delivering to those expectations and keep surprising. And we can only do that through collaborating with each other and challenging each other to spend every last penny where it needs to go. And that can make difficult conversations sometimes, but people are really good at working in that sort of pressured environment with respectful conversations. We haven't had too many fights out on, beaches in Eastbourne or anything for bits of budget. And the other thing for me is the power of the script. And again, that isn't something we can inherit. We need to work out how our stories can be familiar to the audience. They're going to know stories of Peter Pan, of Robin Hood, of but our job is to, what we've done in the last few years, which has been brilliant, is assemble a team of writers with a lot of experience of writing for that age group. And reimagining those stories that don't take us too far away from the familiar world of those stories, but can exist complementing commercial panto, and doing something slightly different with it. Watch out for this year's. We've put a bit of a twist to the tale, thinking of what messaging do we want to get out to our, our beloved audience that we do serve, and want to bring those public service values to an amazing piece of comedy, of entertainment, of panto fun. But as public service broadcasters, it's nice to bring the heart to it and think where we can take a story that surprises, gives us a warm Christmas glow, because we do quite enjoy delivering a warm Christmas glow at the end of the show. So it's a lovely thing to think, where do these two worlds come together? Where can we challenge each other? Where can we create something that's different, that exists for year after year after year? Those, I was walking to the pub once, maybe about Easter time. Now I sound like a voyeur, but I could see through somebody's window that they were watching Christmas in Storyland in April. So these stories exist, you know, constant repeat viewings, and that's a joy to be part of. The bit I'll finish with is we did some audience research a year or so ago, and what it was lovely to hear from parents is that they said, we love this content because we see our children interacting with it and being absolutely part of it and immersed in it, and therefore it's then content that they can enjoy together as a family, and that is a joy to create together.
Thank you very much, Anna. And thanks to our executive producer, Tony, everybody. And next to him, Yoli, our producer. Thank you very much, Yoli. From Blue Zoo. Boys and girls, thank you. Bye, bye. Thank you. Thank you.